Join us here for a review of the most expensive and most powerful works Volkswagen, the new Touareg R. So join us here for the performance SUV version of the Volkswagen Touareg, an exterior, interior and the driving experience. As you know, here you always get non-BS car reviews. So, Thomas in front of the camera, join us behind. Let's go in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. The Touareg comes standard with LED headlamps and optional matrix LED. Here in the Touareg R version you can see that the front graphic here is blacked out, so a lot of black used instead of chrome. Usually also these parts here would be bright chrome and they are all then in black here in this R version. And you can see that the big front grille forms basically one unit with the headlamp unit. Also this black design element here in the C-span is also special to the R, and the lower bumper right there, so a stronger, sportier look. What's your first impression? And when you have the matrix LED light, you also have these cascading turning indicators, even a stronger contrast when you have this black R styling. The length is at 4.88 meters, 16 foot or 192 inches, and of course for the R it's the very same. Today I'm entering the stage from the front. Beautiful side profile here with the Touareg. First of all, it has a classic building style with rather upright windows. You see here the tinting of the windows, and wheels come from 20-inch standard for the R up to 22-inch. The ones you can see here, of course, really big menacing style. 20-inch will give the best comfort. 22-inch will look, most striking. Then our logo right here, the badging. And you can see also the wider and also painted wheel arches here, so in the vehicle color, so less of an off-roadish look, but the air suspension, you can still put it up for even more off-road character, or it goes automatically down when you just drive a little bit faster. So what do you think here? Does an R version work for the Touareg design-wise? In the rear we can see the black contrasting spoiler right here to the lapis blue color. Then the modern tail lamps here for this new Touareg generation, has it ever since. And then there is the e-hybrid badge here together with the R badge. So when you have just the e-hybrid version, just with a little bit less horsepower, then you also have the e-hybrid badge, but not the R badge. Yeah. Okay. Then in the lower part you have once again the black contrast right here, and these exhaust tips here, they are actually one piece with the real exhaust, so I think we can take it that this is still the real deal. So we are really about these black contrasts all over the vehicle. And what's also interesting is we have some kind of off-road situation here. This Touareg e-hybrid or this Touareg R will be just as off-road capable as any other Touareg versions. First of all, because the all-wheel drive system is not really affected by the electric drive, and also everything else, approaching angles and so on, the air suspension, you can pump it up, y'all, and so on. If you want to see more about the Touareg in off-road driving, there's a separate Touareg off-road episode. We will link that one, that you can also check that out later. And the tail lamps here in the R have a darker background, that's special, and you can also see here the cascading turning indicator. Engines for a Touareg, you still get a 3-liter V6 diesel. The 4-liter V8 diesel was cancelled now for this top version, and here this is then based on this 3-liter V6 petrol engine. You can still get it just as an internal combustion engine, but here then in the hybrid models there are two available. Either this then here combined with an electric motor and 380 horsepower system output, 600 newton meters of torque and 5.8 seconds in the acceleration figure, or here the true R model, this one then 462 horsepower for the system output, 700 newton meters of torque, and 5.1 seconds is the acceleration figure. Classic all-wheel drive, 40% in front, 6% in the rear, and then varies a little bit. So the electric drivetrain that does not influence the all-wheel drive capabilities. That's of course a good thing then here, because you might want to use it all silent off-road, for example. Battery size is 14 kilowatt hours net or 18 kilowatt hours gross. That's not too big for a car of this size here. So the pure electric range, like a little bit more than like between 40 and 50 kilometers, 25, 30 miles. So classic for a plug-in hybrid. But we see that the competitors, for example, the BMW X5, has like 24 kilowatt hour battery and about 80 kilometers of range, or the Mercedes GLE plug-in hybrid, even 100 kilometers of range or 60 miles of pure electric range with a 31 kilowatt hour battery. So relatively small battery in this case here. That's one of the downsides. Still, it can make sense if you recharge frequently. The pure electric maximum speed is about 140 kilometers, so around like 80 to 90 miles. You can still use it, but usually when you drive motorway speeds, then you would also use the combustion engine. That's even then, in this case, then more efficient. And recharging AC and 7.2 kilowatt max, so at a proper charging station, takes just roughly 2 hours to put it back on 100%. That's double the speed of a Passat GTE or a Golf GTE. The car key is slim and light, gives you a good feeling. Then the door handles also very solid, and also how they open and so on, really cool. And door closing sound, also really solid. And if you like, you can also get, magic, a soft close function. That's an option. Then inside of the doors, see here the sills are really low, so they protect against dirt on the interior. Right there. Then we have this black insert, supposed to be sporty, soft touch at the top here. Also big, big spaces for the bottles. Then you have our entry badge, as well as a blue contrasting floor mat with another R badge, and also this blue contrasting scheme here. That's very beautifully done. Also we have the ambient lighting, of course, set to blue, fitting to that. There's a new steering wheel in here for the Touareg with the R version. Also with a modern style right there, perforated sides, flat bottom, and then capacitive buttons on the steering wheel. Going to talk about that especially while driving, because it looks fancy. They are also illuminated, but it's harder to use, especially while driving. So that's, to me, a downside. Soon more to the screens. It always comes in this dual screen setup. And the seats, they are a little bit sportier, you see, with the bolstering, but they're not super sporty, so they don't cage you in. That's also the scheme about this vehicle. It's supposed to be more practical in everyday driving life rather than too sporty. In the R version, sadly, only animal skin surfaces are available. However, in the e-hybrids, so this almost same car with a little bit less styling, with a little bit less horsepower, you can also get in European markets the fabric seat, which would also be more breathable than, especially in summertime. Getting inside, of course, with a shoe tap today, because we have a little dirt situation. And the seating position, as we know from the Touareg, really comfortable. You sit really upright, and this area is so cool that you have like this even loading sill between the outside of the vehicle and the same level on the inside. This creates a very distinctive feeling when sitting here. With 1.86 or 6.1, we still have enough headroom, even though there's the panoramic roof in here. You do not have to go for that one, but of course you can, and it really leaves a lot of light in the interior, and also the opening is actually quite wide, so it's definitely a cool feature. Then you also have a special LED lighting here in the top part next to a frameless back mirror. And once again, a good overview, so it's one of the big SUVs where you still have a nice overview all around you. Electric seat control here. There's also a seat massage function available if you like. So a lot of choices. Oh, yeah. Maybe I stick with this relaxing massage here for a while. See you soon. Now the interior overview. Soft touch dashboard. Again, the beautiful blue contrast stitches and nice ambient lighting here. So a quite central setup. The steering wheel can be moved up and down electrically and also in and out. Put it all the way in now so you can better see the digital instruments. And a base Touareg would come with smaller displays, but here this one, the Touareg R, already gets the 12-inch on the left and the 15-inch on the right. If you get for a base Touareg, also just feel free to go for the smaller infotainment screen. It will be a little bit easier to use. This one is a little bit like over-engineered, I would say. Soon more details to both of these screens. Once again, a perspective here on this new steering wheel, which looks, again, quite cool. The steering wheel heating is also available in 3 levels. You also get some kind of a haptic feedback. You also hear it, but it's like one button. Then you can switch around here, something for the digital instruments. On the left, then the cruise control, but here is like with one small step or like a bigger step in for 1 or 10 kilometer steps. And there's like an ongoing development here. Soon also in the driving part, more to that thing. Then in the middle console part right here, you have this slider, a lot of black piano lacquer being used. And in the front body, there's an inductive charging pad for your phone. Also USB-C charger then, if you connect the cable. CarPlay or Android Auto uses the cable then both in the front and also in the rear is both possible. Adaptive cup holders, they're actually quite large. That's cool. Then you have still a manual volume knob, like to have that here. And then there are driving mode selectors. So on the right side here for the air suspension, if you want to control that individually, so pumping it up yaw or down. And on the right side, you can set, for example, the race mode. Then also the car goes a little bit down, normal driving mode and so on, comfort driving mode, or also the off-road driving mode. Then the ESC is optimized accordingly. And when we are then here in this gauge, we can also switch the E-modes around, either for electric driving only or for the hybrid driving. Then both is used, at a best possible efficiency rate, especially if you have a longer route set, and also use the GPS for that. Then also with the predictive assistant that reacts accordingly when there's an intersection or next roundabout, reduces the speed, and also then plans your trip that, for example, on a longer motorway journey, the combustion engine is being used, and in the city, then more at slower speeds, the electric drivetrain. But also with this shifting lever, you can go to the D or the S mode in the sports mode. Then also both drivetrains are being activated in the S mode, usually then the electric only, so you can switch that around just bit by bit. Last but not least, there's this very large leatherette covered armrest, really well attached. You cannot shake it at all like this, and when you put it up, more space underneath with a USB-A charger, and even that one also connects to the smartphone connectivity. And here is a little bit complicated again to use the infotainment system, this GPS map, which looks quite fancy, and this is actually quite responsive also if we compare other newer infotainment systems they are offering. Then here for seat cooling or seat heating, here there's the temperature control. Using that while driving is a little bit complicated once again. You always have this iPhone home button. You also have the gesture function, but yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes not. Not sure if I would really trust on that. You can here with one finger use these inner menus, and then like with 2 fingers you swipe then the whole menu. So that's like the difference. You see here 1 finger there and 2 fingers then from swipe to left to the whole right side. And then there's another menu in the top bar where we have the rather classic app view. This is to me a better overview, I think. Apple CarPlay, for example, the integration looks like this. That looks a little bit poorly integrated, but I mean, it's big enough, definitely. The sound system here is actually quite nice. So why not? Let's tune it up. And yeah, you get a good sound in here. There's not, this DIN audio sound system, and actually quite satisfied with that. It's not the best one I've heard, but also not the worst one. So, good that we have the manual volume knob as well. And then there are also special E-gauges. For example, we can reach it here with the vehicle. Then you have the selection right here for these E-displays. And there you still have the electric range. We have depleted now, meanwhile. And also the energy flow, for example. There you can also see where the battery sits inside the vehicle. And you also can plan your next departure time, or there's also an independent heating then automatically when you have this plug-in hybrid. Digital instruments, they're actually quite clear to read. You can switch what you want to see on the inside here, like assistance systems or a part of the map. And you can also switch around the whole view, that, for example, you can have the map all over the place. That is the biggest advantage of these digital instruments. And on the left side, you'll be able to see then like this power meter goes up to here. This will be then the electric driving. And when it stops here and goes beyond that, then you see there's then like the classic RPM meter. And on the left side, the lower part, this will then where the recuperation will happening. So when you lift the throttle, lift the foot off the throttle, then there will be some recuperation. And you also, when you are on the brakes, for example, and then you can see this, this gauge filling green. And at some point when you need more braking power, then the real brakes are being applied. And in the head-up display, you can see the current speed, assistance system information, or some allowed speed, and also then GPS arrows if you have a route set. As for the rear compartment, you have a lot of space indeed. That's a cool thing about the Touareg, and also the same styling here on the interior. Also the back part has somewhat soft touch. Then you have the manual shades here for the rear. There we go. Like this, but the windows here in the R version are already tinted, so you probably don't need it that often. And you can also see there's a big middle tunnel, of course, with this huge climate unit that looks pretty fancy. But of course, sitting in the middle part of the seat, then it's not that comfortable, but still works. I can show you. More important is that we have adjustable rear seating. So first of all, this bench goes forward and backward by 16 centimeters or 6 inches. That's actually quite substantial. Like this here, all the way in the front, you have a longer trunk, or in that way you have most legroom, and there's really a lot of space then left in front of my knees. You sit relatively high here. That will be good for the kids. Still with tall adults, it works headroom-wise. Will be a little bit more than without the panoramic roof. Still a very comfortable seating position, one of the most comfortable also in the rear. You can also adjust the back part of the seat here with these lower levers, either more upright or a little bit more backward in the sleeping position. And the variation is also, once again, really noticeable. And you can also fold the seats then from here already. You could then fold it all the way like this. So then in the middle part, you have these cup holders. Oh, there's like the car number, like some, ordering information from a production line. So you see that we always get very fresh cars for you. That's authentic life on Autogefühl. So not adaptive cup holders here. That's actually okay. And then you also have here the ski hatch, just for that. And what about this middle seat? I mean, it's a little bit harder from the surface, but of course it would still work with 5 tall adults. And one more close-up here at the climate unit, which also includes the rear seating for the heated seats. In the lower part, 2 USB-C supplies here now. That's new, and a real power socket. That's really cool for maybe like working in the rear and so on. So there's no plug-in hybrid compromise for the rear bench. Is there one for the trunk area here. By the way, this lower part is quite thick, so it's not too tall than for tall adults, indeed. What is cool is that here this cover automatically goes up and down together with the electric hatch. That's a very practical solution. Here we have like a secure solution also for the charging cable box. You can also put like upright like this, that it doesn't take too much space and width. In general, you have the same trunk, just a little bit, see it's a little bit lost in height right here, like this step, and you also don't have anything below that. Usually you would have like also more space below that, so that's what you lose. A little bit then in the height and the cover below that. Other than that, it's actually quite okay. You have the same width, also the same length. Let me put in this cabin trolley that you can see like how that works. And here you can also level it down from the air suspension. If you have an air suspension with the Touareg, then you could put everything a little bit more down. And also the towing hook can be drawn out electronically. And the thing is then here, 3.5 tons is still the towing capacity. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So 3.5 tons, so the same towing capacity here for the Touareg R, and that's also not that frequent with the plug-in hybrid vehicles that it has the full towing capacity. So then length here of the trunk is about 1 meter, and also the width here is about 1 meter, always in this area, and here also then a little bit longer. And we fold the seats right here and here, manual mechanism, and then you would need to push the seats a little bit more down, either with your luggage or go around and really fix them, put them down. And the absolute length here to the front seats then would be a little bit more than 1.80 meters. And child safety test, will this electric hatch cut us off? Da, 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 da. Good boy. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the new Touareg R. It is also a plug-in hybrid, as we said earlier, and that's why we can start all electric, pure silent. And that's so cool in this big vehicle. And when we look at the total range, that's a little bit complicated to do that steering wheel. So here the total range would be 625 kilometers, 580 kilometers with the consumption, with the ICE, internal combustion engine, and 45 kilometers pure electric. But we can also pull it back here to this sport mode, and this is then combine both powers. And let's see, acceleration first one, 50 to 100. Let's go. Plop, and that's already it. That was almost 110. So really good performance. 5.1 seconds is the official acceleration figure, 0 to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, and 462 horsepower, this total system output. When you think about the e-hybrid, the non-R version, then it's basically the same vehicle, also same powertrain and so on. Just the total system horsepower output is then different here with the R, and here also have 100 Newton meters of torque more. And this is, definitely you feel this difference, but it would not be, like it would be a completely different vehicle. The all-wheel drive is just the very same as with a normal combustion engine, because this additional electric drive does not interfere with the all-wheel drive system. It's not that the electric motor would take over one of the axles. It's really just that it comes on top. So it's basically in front of the transfer case. So that means then this classic rear-wheel biased all-wheel drive just remains the same as as you're used to, basically. So rear-wheel biased, more torque at the rear axle, a little bit less than on the front axle, and that's it. And that's also a good characteristic, first of all, for some sporty driving, definitely, but also for off-road driving. So this car is also in a very same way, off-road capable as the normal combustion engine. And driving off-road can also be interesting, because at these slow speeds you can also drive all electric. Then here on the motorway we can also set the cruise control here with this new steering wheel with the capacitive buttons. This can be tricky at times because it's not that intuitive. Yeah, you set the cruise control here, or deactivate again. You set the travel assist here with the second button. Travel assist then here updated with this version works up to a speed of 210 kilometers an hour, and this really keeps the car in lane. And also, you know, there's quite flawless assistance systems here with the blind spot monitor as well. This is a very helpful feature, definitely. And here you can basically relax and let the car almost do everything. And yeah, that's totally fine. So this is here once again the blind spot monitor. When you hit the turning indicator, then it begins also flashing as an additional warning. And here, see here the travel assist also keeping me in the lane when I get off the side just a little bit. Sometimes now it's not really clear like if it's activated or not. You always have to check down in the lower area there. And to increase or decrease the speed, here you can either press like slightly for 1 and 2 kilometers, or now I see you can drive a little bit faster and press it harder in for 10 kilometer steps. This is the same as in the ID3 or in the new Golf 8, but recently different in the Volkswagen Tiguan facelift, because Volkswagen realized that hardly anyone realizes, and sometimes you don't really get the right pressure for like a little bit for 1 kilometer steps or more for 10 kilometer steps. And now in the Tiguan, the same as when you have the steering wheel that is non-capacitive with the real buttons, +1 or -1 is on set and resume, and the 10 kilometer steps are then on plus and minus. So, and I think that's also then the overall, you know, better solution, definitely more intuitive one, because the way it is here, it's not really that intuitive. So always simple to get into this sportier mode, just when, you know, pull the shifting backwards, but you can also go back here, pull it backwards one more time, then you are in the all electric mode once again. Here the RPMs drop to 0 and we're just all silent. And that's of course very cool, especially when you have traffic situations or the next traffic light or so jumps to red, like now, and we're driving all electric once again. And it really suits also to this more comfortable character of the vehicle with the soft air suspension. Here, of course, a little stiffer ride with these 22-inch wheels we have, the biggest ones. If you want more comfort, stick with the base 20-inch wheels here for the R model. 22-inch wheels, then definitely stiffer, you feel that. But still, it's a very comfortable car. And that's also a difference then, or what they want to have as a difference. They are the sibling models, you know, from Porsche Cayenne and the Audi Q7, for example. And here, with their sporty version, even though it's high in the horsepower trim and good in acceleration, they did not want it to be that sporty, actually. So they rather want to keep it like you would drive a normal Touareg, just with a little bit more punch, and of course the plug-in hybrid drivetrain, but the suspension is not stiffer or something, you know. So, and I think that's also the approach if you say, I don't want the car, you know, to be sportier. Yeah, I don't mind having that it has more horsepower and so on, and it's cool that it has the plug-in hybrid, but I don't want it to be sportier. Then you would go for the Touareg and not necessarily for the Cayenne. So that's like a different niche, and I think that's also fine just to pick that niche. By the way, if we are in the all-electric mode, we can also have a substantial acceleration. There's no problem, like this here. Of course, not really fast, but it still works. And then I feel like this threshold in the throttle, and if I exceed that, then if I pin it down, then the combustion engine hops on. So for safety reasons, if I want a really strong acceleration, and here now when I decelerate, adjust it to the speed limit once again, then we're dropping back the RPMs to 0 and I'm in the all-electric mode again. And when you can recharge frequently, it can make sense to drive all-electric all the time, and then you just have your very short commuting ways. However, in the overall, overview, so to speak, when we, for example, plan a longer trip, then it could make more sense to pick the hybrid mode. So when you are in these drive mode selections, you can go here to the hybrid mode. And when you have a GPS route set at the same time, then actually the car calculates for you what is now when the best drivetrain to use. So that could, for example, be, let's say like a 100 kilometer route that will never be done all electric with this vehicle. And then the car maybe says, oh yeah, and on the long motorway ride, we rather use the combustion engine. In the city, we rather use the electric drivetrain, and calculate it the way that it directly fits. And then you can maybe recharge again into the next destination. And this actually is the most efficient way. So together then with the predicted assistant, that is, for example, reducing the speed in front of roundabouts or in front of the next intersection. And the car knows that when you have a GPS route set, because then the car really, okay, like that's the length. Then you have this topography changed, then it's going right and left and so on. So this can really make sense. So if you're planning a longer trip, and even though you might know the route, it can make sense efficiency-wise than to enter it in the GPS system. You just have to be aware of that Volkswagen has the philosophy here that their plug-in hybrid models always start electric only first. And this, whole efficiency thing only works then when you go to the hybrid mode, like with the route calculation and so on. With the Audi, for example, you would rather start in the hybrid mode. And then it's always like this, and you have to go to the electric mode intentionally. Here it's the other way around. It's just a different philosophy. So you can argue pro and con, what makes more sense or not. The new steering wheel, by the way, is pretty cool. So it's really fun to steer it. You have a good grip. It looks more modern than before. Visually, definitely a gain. These, that was a stone hitting us somewhere. That didn't sound too good. Yeah, happens sometimes, but I don't see. Yeah, there's a small crack, right? Maybe. I hope it isn't like a serious damage. That's what sometimes happens on the road, right? So, with the capacitive feedback here, like you slide on it and something is happening, and sometimes you think like, oh, what I'm doing here, and then whoa, there's the road, So definitely when you have distinctive feedback from normal buttons, it's definitely less distracting. So I'm really not a fan of it. Like the outside of the steering wheel and the look is cool. The look of the capacitive buttons that are illuminated is also very fancy and so on. But then again, here always I don't know, like when is what activated and when not. And now I'm pressing like 10 kilometer steps again, and now I'm 1, and I'm looking at it all the time, and it's so distracting. So that's definitely not a gain. So visually a gain. From the user experience or the user interface, I don't understand. And here now at the moment, for example, I don't know, like why isn't it? So I have to press resume once again. So sometimes, I feel it would be enough to activate, like to press 1 or like minus or plus or so. But and that, you see, it's driving me nuts, absolutely driving me nuts. And I hardly say that often about functions of the vehicle. Yeah. So that's definitely maybe you get used to it a little bit, but probably not in a way that it would really offset that. So the overall driving experience, however, is really comfortable. The Touareg also, once again, one of the most comfortable cars on the market. You have the upright seating position. These sportier seats are not too sporty, so they don't cage you in totally. It's still a good experience. And you have this open traveling atmosphere and so on. The instruments are very clear to read, and of course the noise insulation is really good, so it's very silent in here, and the upright building style of this whole car does not change that. However, it's still fun to drive. Again, the suspension is not set on a very stiff note, and I think that's also a good decision. Others can do that. This car then has this niche there in this respect. The only thing I'm really missing from a driving experience would be one of the best options you can go with the Touareg, and that's the rear axle suspension. Maybe then even together in here with the anti-tilt control or anti-roll function. That is not available for this vehicle, because with the plug-in hybrid concept, with the battery there in the rear, and the charger and so on, they didn't have space for it. Porsche, however, did develop a system that does fit it, that the extra technology inside. Yeah, they should probably have, collaborated more with Porsche than in this case. So it is theoretically possible, but really tricky to do. And so after all, plug-in hybrid Touareg do not have the rear axle steering or the anti-tilt control. We have a couple of times already with different brands that these additional technologies were sometimes not available in the respective plug-in hybrid models. Here, by the way, once again, I would expect when I press plus or minus that the cruise control resumes, but I have to press resume first and then it does resume the speed. Yeah, I'm not sure why they have implemented that function, and sometimes even that doesn't happen. So yeah, pretty confusing right there. So overall, definitely a great driving experience with, some tweaks or some cons here and there for this very specific model. But I'm still overall a fan of a Touareg, and as what it delivers from driving. However, with the big infotainment system now, with the capacitive steering wheel and so on, this is maybe then sometimes a little bit too much. So what I would still recommend you to do is go, maybe for a more simple, basic Touareg, maybe even with the smaller infotainment screen, with the normal steering wheel that is still available with the buttons and so on. So this will basically make your life a little bit easier. But putting here this plug-in hybrid in Touareg is really fitting. I'm really enjoying the really like hugging to the right side. Really enjoying the electric driving moments. It's so super silent in here, and here for example now, combustion engine hops on. Something has to do with the energy consumption, AC unit for example, and then again, what the car is realizing, maybe like this is a longer motorway period of time, so we rather go on the combustion engine now. Like the 48 volt board system, that was also one of the space issues, so they had to drop the 48 volt board net system that is required for these additional technologies. Wasn't space for that there near the rear axle either. So interesting always these technology discussions, definitely, but this car has a great punch. We've shown it to you. The electric driving is really awesome and flawless, and as long as you can recharge frequently, it's still a very nice solution. Yeah, but just the missing rear axle steering, that is really a bummer. So because I've always been enjoying that so much when driving a Touareg. And one more proof of performance when we are already at speed. So from 100 kilometers or 60 miles, we accelerate further out in the sports mode. Let's go. And that's 180 kilometers an hour, so pretty impressive, and really smooth acceleration distributed over both axles. Actually also quite interesting sound performance as for that, and definitely you feel this additional electric boost there you have. You will also have that in the e-hybrid non-R model, but again, just with a little bit less than a second of a difference in the acceleration figure from standstill. So especially from standstill, it makes then a difference. Other than that, then in the higher speed regions, it's also not then too different to the combustion engines. But remember, this new R model also replaces the so far 4-liter V8 diesel. They're going away especially from the very big diesel engines, and power-wise definitely is a good replacement. If it's also a replacement as for the fuel economy, that once again depends on the driving profile. Once again, lane change here at higher speeds. You can see that the car remains pretty stable, although we don't have the roll control. It would have been sportier than with the anti-roll control, but here still remains really upright. And again, even though we have the 22-inch wheels mounted, it still delivers us a good comfort. So sportiness and comfort is both given, but once again we can say that the Touareg is rather comfortable niche. Then if you compare it also to the Audi and the Porsche competitor, the sibling, they want to be sportier, the Touareg more comfortable. At the same time here, whoa, really good punch. Once again, 190 kilometers an hour, really nice. One more lane change here, so good control of the car. The steering, by the way, as for the feeling, So when I deactivate all of the assistance systems, and also deactivate lane assist here, pressing the left column, then hitting OK, then I have more control of the car. Still like in the very low degree areas here, could be a little bit more feedback. Other than that, the steering is actually quite progressive, so I don't have to steer that much and can keep both hands at the steering wheel at all times. So here also when I do lane change, not much steering is actually needed. That's actually fine. But again, here in this area, a little bit more feedback would have been cool. Close, yeah, there we have a good speed again. And so overall it gives me a good control feeling here on the motorway. And now to our conclusion for today with the new Touareg R. First of all, in the styling, I think that works very, very well. It looks very sporty, still is really elegant, even with these, dark, menacing accentuations and so on. But of course, the color is always very striking here, the typical Volkswagen R color. So styling, I would say, check. Interior styling is also good. However, the user interface is to me a little bit complicated at times. The new steering wheel is great in handling. However, the capacitive buttons are not that easy to use. And also the infotainment software could be a little bit fast and also more intuitive to use. The offering of space is very good, and among these big SUV here in this segment here is also one of the best and also one of the most comfortable as for the seating position and so on. Here for the R model, sadly no alternatives to animal skin. For the e-hybrid, a little bit less horsepower tune. However, you can get, not in all markets, but in a lot of markets, you can also get the fabric seats. As for the driving experience, a very comfortable driving experience as usual, we know from the VW Touareg. The V6 petrol engine is in general a very nice one, also with a good performance. Here then combined with the electric drivetrain gives you a really good boost, a really good punch. That is a lot of fun to drive. They emphasize, however, with this car that it's not super sporty as, for example, a Porsche Cayenne. So rather soft also from the suspension setup. You can vary it a little bit then by the wheel choices, rather stay on the comfort side with the 20-inch wheels or make it stiffer, a little bit sportier like this here with the 22-inch wheels. But still, even with this setup here, it was a comfortable ride. Well, but does it make sense to put it here with the R version? Price-wise, it's a little bit tough to swallow when you think about like a German reference price, 60k euros for an entry Touareg, and then here 85 for this one with some more extras. You easily get like towards 100, but you can add all the extras to it because, for example, the rear axle steering is not available for the R model nor for the e-hybrid. Yeah, and that's also one of the major downsides because I think the rear axle steering is one of the best features the Touareg has to offer and it drives so much better with it. Sadly, not offered than here in the plug-in hybrid model as explained earlier. Price performance-wise, of course, the normal e-hybrid would make more sense. You have a little bit less power, but basically the same drivetrain. You can also get the fabric seats on the inside and you just pay less money. But here, of course, you have the very striking exterior design. So an even better price performance would just take a base V6 Touareg, of course. The V8 diesel is no more, was just there for a very short time. If you're interested in that review, we also have it on our channel with the V8 TDI. So feel free to tune into that if you're interested there. What do you think about the Touareg R? Leave us your comments in the section below there. Let's discuss here the new Touareg R. Maybe also check out the Tiguan R, a little bit smaller version. We recently also did a review on that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Always a pleasure to have you here on our channel. And by the way, fuel economy wise, yeah, that's also a thing. So we did a longer run here with, some electric driving, but also a lot of motorway. And then we almost ended up with the same consumption with the normal ICE. So that's in about 10 liters on 100 kilometers. So some 20 mpg US, 25 mpg UK. There the electric drivetrain does not help so much. You can use a little bit of the recuperation, of course. It optimizes it a little bit more. But even more sense, of course, when you have this combined mix and you have, electric driving moments, especially in the city or where it's like changing topography and so on. So if that makes sense, really depends on your driving profile. Last thoughts now. See you next time.